Hi, and welcome to another video by Jim the Car Guy. Today, as you can see, we have a Subaru behind us over here. It's a 2014 Forester. We're going to be changing the front brakes and the rotors, and we're going to change the hardware kit as well at the same time. The good thing about this job is I'm going to be the cameraman, and I'm not going to be doing it. My assistant's going to do it. So let's get over there, and we're going to talk about what we're going to do, and then we're going to get this job done. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to come over here now. We're going to push this piston back in here. We're going to push these pistons back in over here to make sure that they slide back in the way that they're supposed to. We're going to take off that bolt right there and there, and we're going to take the caliper off to the side, and we're going to leave it hanging on the side so it's not just hanging by the hose. Then we're going to come in the back over here, and we're going to remove that bolt right there, and there's another one down on the bottom underneath here as well. We're going to take that off so we can take this bracket off so we can remove the rotor. So, all right, let's get started. Go in there, we're going to push that piston back in so it's pushed into the bore as far as it'll go. And then we're going to slide it back and forth to make sure the slide pins slide. And as you can see, they're sliding nice and easy right here and down on the bottom. We are going to lubricate them, but they are actually okay. Next thing we'll do is we'll take out the probably 14 or 15 millimeter bolts in the back. 14 millimeter. As you can see, my assistant doesn't wear gloves like me. He's not afraid of some grease like me. This is the pistons here. We're going to have to push these back in a little bit further. They didn't go in all the way, but that's what that tool is all about. I'll show you how that works later on once we get to that point. Now, you're probably looking at these pads wondering why they're going to be changed, because the pedal in this car vibrates like crazy. So that's why we're replacing the pads here. All right, next thing we're going to do now is we're going to take out these bolts up in the top right here and the other one down in the bottom right there. We'll take those out and we'll remove the mounting bracket. And it looks like our light is going to die. Okay, I think we're going to take this light out of here because we have a battery going dead. You can probably still see okay. So we're going to take out that bolt there, and we're going to remove the upper bolt, and we'll take that bracket right off the car. Now the rotor on the other side was actually pretty rusted, so we may have to take a hammer and try to persuade this to come off. If not, then we're going to get that puller we have in the back made by OTC that pulls off these rusted rotors, so we'll see how it goes. As you can see, there's a significant amount of rust on there, so we're going to put some never-seize or anti-seize on there so it goes back together easily. So, all right, let me back up and we'll beat the heck out of it. That's it. And if it don't come off with that hammer, you get a bigger hammer. Now you can see in the back of it here, all of this rust in the back here, so we need to clean up the back of the, where the hub bearing, this hub bearing assembly here. We're going to clean this up with a wire wheel or a grinder to get all that rust off there. That's very important. If you don't clean this rust off of here, you're going to put the new rotor on and your brake pedal is going to pulsate like crazy. So, all right, we're going to clean this up. And I'll grab the disc and we'll come right back. The way we're going to push that piston back in is you take the brake pads and you put them in the caliper just like that, and this tool pushes the pistons back into the bore all the way. Now this is only one example of a tool. This one here is actually made by Snap-on, but there's lots of different ones you can get. And they all work just as well. Now you don't have to kill it by pushing it in real hard. It'll actually just push in very slowly, and that's it. All right, so now you can see they're all the way in as far as they can go. And we are going to lubricate these here before we put it back together, but we'll come back to that shortly. Okay, now we're going to take this over to the bench, and we're going to take these brake pads out. We're going to pull this hardware kit off with a screwdriver, and we're going to install the new hardware kit on here. Basically, it just pushes right in. These pieces here go right down into the corner right there, and you push this in all the way. And then we're going to lubricate it with some silicone just so everything slides nice and freely. So, all right, let's take it over to the bench and we'll continue over there. Now, as you can see, these brake pads, the actual brake pad itself, it's very important that you put the pad back on the correct location, because you can see here, this is actually a spreader. So when you apply the brake, it pulls the brake in. This piece here, or this piece here, touches against here, and it pulls the brake pad away from the rotor so it doesn't have a constant drag on it. So it's very important that you put the brake pads in the correct location, because you can see this one is an exact copy of this one, but this one is a mirror image of it. You can see it's actually out the other side. So this one is the one that goes on the outside like that. Alright, so we're going to switch all this stuff over, and then we'll come back when we're ready to put it back on the car. And underneath here is where we're going to clean up any kind of rust that's in there. You can use a file, you can use whatever you have, and here we're going to use the disc here to clean it off, and the file to clean up any kind of rust. Alright, so alright, let's continue with it. They just pull right off you with a screwdriver or a little pry bar, whatever you have to get them off, and then that's trash. And underneath here is where we're going to clean up with the file or on the wire wheel, whichever. Alright, so let's clean this up, and once we have it cleaned up, we'll come back.
And then
okay, as you can see, we put some lube on here to put it back together on both sides of it. Anywhere that the brake pad is going to touch into the bracket, you want to make sure it's lubricated. And as you can see, this clip here rubs up against this stainless piece right here, so you never have to worry about it rusting. It actually slides back and forth nice and freely. All right, and now that we have it back together like this, we're going to put it back over in the car and put it back together. Okay, as you can see, we have the rotor, the back, we have that nice and cleaned up, that hub assembly back there, that's all cleaned up where the rotor fits onto. And you see the rotor is on here. The reason we have this nut on here is to hold the rotor in place while we're in here working. The rotor's not moving around and then knocking the brake pads out of the mounting bracket. So, all right, this is just temporarily. We will take it off, once the caliper is put back on. Okay, now we put the caliper mounting bracket back over it. We're going to get both bolts caught. You're going to catch both bolts in first before you tighten either one of them up, because if you tighten one up and the other one is not in, it may not line up properly and you might have trouble getting it in. So we make sure we get them both caught before we go and tighten them up. Now those bolts that we're tightening up right there, we are going to come back later on and we're going to torque them into the proper foot-pounds, but for now we're just going to snug them down. Okay, you're going to put just a little bit of lube on each one of the pistons. It doesn't have to be a whole bunch, just enough to coat it. And on the inside where the brake pad is going to touch, we're going to put a little bit of grease on there. And that's it. We're pretty much ready to put it back together now. Now we're going to put that over the top of the brake pads, and we're going to push our slide pins in just in case they're in the way. And I want to point out on the top up here, these slide pins fit in only one direction. There's a flat part on the bottom right here that needs to be in where it's supposed to be, right there. Alright, so now we're going to tighten it in. Catch both bolts by hand first, and then once they're caught by hand, then you can come in and you can tighten them up. Again, you want to torque these in, and like I said, we will look the specs up and come back and torque it in later. Okay, and that's it. We're all set. So we're going to recap what we did. We cleaned up underneath here where the rotor is going to mount onto, make sure all that rust is off of there. We put the rotor back on. We cleaned off all of that grease that comes from the factory. So we cleaned it with some brake cleaner. We put our new hardware kit into our mounting bracket. We cleaned up every place that the mounting bracket and the hardware kit come in contact. We cleaned the rust out of there. We put the new hardware kit on, lubricated every place that the brake pad is going to touch. We tightened up our mounting bracket here. We installed our brake pads and then mounted up our 14mm bolts here and tightened them both down. And that's it. We're pretty much all set. That nut now can come off because the rotor is not going to move at all now. It's held in pretty tightly. And that's it. We're going to put the wheels on and we're going to take it for a road test. All right, so we're going to put the wheels back on the car. We're going to take it out for a test drive. When you first get in the car now, when you step on the brake, you're going to notice that your brake pedal goes right to the floor. You want to make sure you pump that pedal up a couple of times till the pedal comes up before you take it for a test drive. And that's it. You may notice a little bit of a burning smell. You may notice a little bit of smoke. Nothing to worry about. You'll be perfectly fine. And that's it. So, all right, this job is out the door and on to the next one. All right, as always, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.